Well, I'm out for my morning walk today. Starting to get back into that again. I'm unassisted by my girlfriend. I'm not hanging on her arm. Anyway, I wanted to do a an upload here this morning. A little bit inspired, a little bit, by somebody I was listening to. Happened to be a British guy, and what makes him happy, and what actually, to get up in the morning to face another day. He himself has had a couple of children that he left behind, but they were on their own, grown up, and I think they have their own kids or whatever. Not a different situation than mine, really. Let me tell you a little story here. Everybody likes to get their facts around, but it's done purposely to pull my chain. I realized that. Real story is, bought some land in Hawaii, and I was absolutely planning on building a home. And as such, motorcycle coming, got to move to the side. My daughter, for example, she was fully aware that I was planning to move to Hawaii. She's been there numerous times with me. Good morning. She could understand my quest to want to move out there, actually. Of course, the timing was really bad because the day that I actually was leaving to go to Hawaii, it's just coinky dinky turned out to be the day she was giving birth. And when I say taking this to the wire, this was actually taken to the wire. I mean, to the point that my van was going to be coming, no shit, to take me and the dog to the airport. As you can see over here, why is this road unpaved up until here? Well, I'm going to get away from my story for a second. Why is this paved? Because an ex-mayor who owns all this land around here had this done. His purpose and value of his land, that's a fact. No, the whole road wasn't done. And it would be really nice if it was, but all this land that you see out here, it's all his. Nobody's living here. There's an old broken down house, but all this is actually his land. And as you can see, and I'll turn around here, all this. So he decided to get the funding. He didn't put out the money himself. This is all done by, well, it didn't come out of his pocket. Let's just say that. There we go. For the value of his land. That's why the rest of my road is not paved. And in other reasons too, because if they had to widen the roads, people would have a real problem with that. Because it might infringe on their property, that any fencing or anything on there would have to be, removed. They couldn't do a damn thing about it. That's the way things work out here sometimes. Well, I'm not in a mobility scooter here. I'm actually walking. What was that Jerry Lewis song? Look at him, he's walking. Look at him, he's talking. Well, I'm walking and I'm talking. I'm unassisted. Thank you. There's no cane. But, you gotta go along with that shit. It's all meant to pull your chain. But anyway, getting back to my story. Now, I have absolutely no court order or obligation to have to explain myself to really anybody. But I like getting the facts straight, so whether or not people believe me or not, it really doesn't matter. But it's not an obligatory thing that I need to explain my life. the people out there that I've maybe never met or wouldn't care to meet whatsoever. But since a lot of yapping is going on out there about my life and Billy Joel song, because it's my life. As you can see, I'm perfectly mobile. Perfectly mobile. I'm not using a cane. There you go. So, as events would go, it was unfortunate, but the day I was leaving was the time that my daughter's body said, well, it's time to deliver. So I was told, I went to the hospital and I got to be there when she gave birth. Imagine the timing on that, right? Pretty amazing, actually. But lo and behold, there was a van scheduled to where I was temporarily living to take me and my dog to the airport. I had no time to organize things in the apartment, none. What I couldn't take with me, I just said to basically anybody on there, anybody that was living there, I said, hey, take what you want, dishes, utensils, and all that. There's quite a bit of stuff, actually. What was I going to do with it? It's just, my planning wasn't great, okay? It really wasn't. And by the way, I'm walking at a pace will be considered a brisk walk. You don't hear me breathing like I'm about to pass out. Checking for traffic. No cane. So I gathering she wasn't too happy about that, and later on she did say, and being rather emotional, why did you have to move to Hawaii? Well, I told her, I said, look, it's something that I had planned. And you know this, for a long time. You've been to Hawaii and you know my interest in Hawaii. And my life had to go on too, because at that time, Seattle just wasn't really happening for me. Despite all the good years I had in Seattle, it just wasn't working for me anymore. It changed a lot, People change, places change. I changed. There's a house for rent here, boys. If you want to live here. So, yeah, there was a little friction happening at that time. Had her baby. Moved to my just about finished home in Hawaii. I was really unsure about the move I made. I remember talking to her in the morning when I woke up and I said, I don't know. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should just sell this and come back. Because I really didn't, I don't know. I didn't know anybody out there at the time, really. And, well, I did on the other side of the island. That was the other side of the island. That did help me. So me and my dog. And also relating to other stories where, again, I got some influence on doing this show. Had to listen to a particular vlogger who told about how he had left his country over in jolly old England, and that he had to leave certain things behind himself. But he did what he felt. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And had to make these decisions. And sometimes in life, you have to make decisions on what you want to do in your life. That I did. I was always a doer and not a talker in that way. When I made up my mind about something, I would just do it. Well, that's what I did. She was taken care of. She was married. No problems. You could always communicate. And if she wanted to visit Hawaii, she could come and visit me and so forth. So that was all pretty much laid down. We both understood the situation. Now, along the way, of course, comes in relationship problems. That's later on in her relationship, but there were things that she really didn't know about him, that she had no idea. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me whatsoever. It's her doing. Made some bad choices. And she had to pay for those bad choices. She would call me up, confused about something, and kind of like that old girlfriend I had from California. Calls me up, oh, I made a mistake. Can you come out here to visit me and all that? That happened. That was a true story. Look, Ma, no hands. No cane here, okay? Well, time went on, and more children later from this man that she married. 4, exactly. And she had her own things to deal with. Her kids, one of them may have had a little bit of, I don't know, some emotional problem of some sort, / whatever, to deal with. But then the marriage was falling apart. And when it gets to the point that you're hurting yourself, either punching your arm against a wall, causing damage, or a head against a wall, or doing something, which she did. Oh, I could just handle this with kid gloves and say no. She never did any of that. But she did. And she was mad at him. She took her car and rammed it into her motorcycle. She was mad at him. Okay, what route should I take? I could go down this route to the beach. It's a different route. Anyway, she's a grown adult. As a grown adult, kind of take care of things and deal with things. But she would call me up, and as most children will do with their parents, and, oh, I got a bad situation here. I'm really angry, or I'm really upset. And I'll say, well, what now? And that was a famous word, what now? Because there was always something going on. But here I was trying to be settled in Hawaii, and it wasn't easy. Brother moved out later on, but we'll get to that. But all right, so one thing after happened, another, separated from him because of some amazing legal things that she had to deal with, of things that he done that she never knew. She made bad choice. All right. So that was getting warmed over and all that stuff. She meets another guy, works in a head shop. Great. He was definitely a stoner, drinker. Well, I'm not going to get into all the details. Another mistake that she made. Again, it's a phone calls to me or my brother, needing advice about something. And we were more than happy to give her advice. Looks like garbage pickup day because the governor is actually in town today. And they clean up everything only when the governor comes or some big event. That's kind of wacky, but that's what they do here. So anyway, story goes on. Things weren't working out with him. He was definitely cheating on her, and I've told those stories from Now to Kingdom Come. He's not the right guy for you. You want your fatherly advice. Okay, I'm going to give you that advice. But you have to listen. If you're going to ask me advice, why don't you take my advice and listen? Oh, beautiful morning here in Santa Fe. Then why don't you take my advice? She never did. And it got to the point, it just became uncomfortable, even for my brother. Because he was giving out advice too. Not that his life was so together, but on her situation, he gave some good solid advice. She wouldn't listen to him either. So, what are you going to do? That created friction and so forth, and whatever. One thing led to another. Then, after a while, we were talking to each other again. This happened several times. We were okay, but the same pattern emerged. Again, and there you were. Create friction, blah, blah, blah. What is a man to do? You don't mind helping out. You don't mind giving good advice, but seriously, as a father, it's kind of your obligation to advise well to your child. It is. It certainly should be. But unfortunately, let's see if I could stand this camera up anywhere here. I didn't bring anything to achieve this. I'm going to see if I could find a platform or something to put this on. So yes, I can get on camera. Look at him, he's walking. Look at him, he's talking. Jerry Lewis. What can I use as a platform? Maybe in this netting. I don't know. Let's give it a try. I don't think that's going to work, though. We'll give it a try. I don't know. I got my remote on, so. Unfortunately, it had to be a part 2. I'm not sure what happened. The camera turned off. So let's call part 2 the story. And I don't know where the camera left off. Look at that. I'm walking. No cane. I'm sorry, but I gotta mention that. Okay, what route should I take back? There's a couple of routes. Okay. I'd have to review. I don't know where I left off. And I was basically, to catch up on this, well, advice was given to my daughter. She didn't take it. Advice was given for my brother. She didn't take it. Life had to go on. I had to move to Hawaii after all the visits I've made. I'll go down this way. All the visits that I made there. And I already had the land. The house was being built. And anyway, I went there. Took the dog and all that. So I went. And of course, we stayed in touch. We definitely stayed in touch. But issues would come up all the time. Issues and tissues all the time. There's always some issue coming up about something, There was always an issue. And, I was more than happy to have her discuss what her problems were. I had no problem with that. But when she starts asking over and over again, and after I've given her advice already, she doesn't take it, well, it gets to a point it becomes a little bit uncomfortable. Certainly was for me. A lot of friction was created. She kept on making bad choices. To this day, today, she was married, divorced. Then she got together with the pothead guy from the head shop. Then shit happened with that. She was being used and so forth. That didn't work out. Like, I didn't see that coming. She didn't want to listen to me. Okay, sometimes you gotta make your own mistakes. I understand that. Then when that didn't work out, well, 4 kids was not enough for her. She was like a had this maternal instinct that went beyond basic instinct and wanted to have more bye-byes. And that was her choice. She loved babies. Probably because she was afraid of being alone. Human nature. Human nature. But reality, it's not a reason to have kids. We're overpopulated on this earth already. Big time. But that's, of course, her choice and any woman's choice. So she just went on from there. Now she's got another guy with her fifth child, some guy that she's with, and had another baby, so that's number 5. Oy, I know what you're thinking. Don't have to tell me. Now, I thought that too. I mean, I really did. Okay, so let's start heading back. All right, meanwhile, I'm in Hawaii, and to kind of end it off, my brother. So much information has been put out, bullshit information about that. The reason my brother was living out there is because, well, Roto-Rooter to the rescue. That was me. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. That was me. And I was rescuing my brother half of his life as an adult. Not many brothers would want to do that for their other brother, knowing their history. Well, of course, he got into some bad shit all his life. And his health conditions were primarily brought on by his own doing. You know, that's what happens when you drink a lot, you do drugs, and at the time, a lot of shit. He did a lot of shit. So 14 glorious years in Hawaii, 14 glorious years of basically living somebody that you had absolutely nothing in common except for the mother and father. We had nothing in common except the garden, really. Now, I'm not saying he was a bad person. He was actually a really good person, but he had some frontal lobe injury many, many, many years before over in Everett, Washington, when a building structure fell in on him. And it took me a lot of years to figure out, no, it wasn't the drugs. Well, they all added up to this, but the reason he gets so moody all the time and we didn't get along, he had this frontal lobe damage, and it affects your mood. I'm going to give you an example of something. He had a friend. She was a Rose who was sitting out on his porch with him, not in Hawaii, but after I sold the house. And his mood was great. Then all of a sudden, he goes into a tantrum and getting very verbally abusive with her. And he doesn't normally do that. No. And it's the frontal lobe damage that affects different parts of your brain, your behavior, and all that. In a way, it was kind of not really relieving to know that, but it did explain to me a lot on his behavior. It really did. That he didn't have any control because of that frontal lobe damage he had. It took me a lot of years to just figure this out. I mean, I thought about that once before, but it never really dwelled on me. Then I did more research on it, like I do, and said, yeah, that explains it completely. So my brother was not a bad person. He made bad choices in his life. Anyway, I had to live with him over 14 years, and then it was just getting to be too much. I needed to move on. Again, I needed to move on with my life. There's nothing complicated about that. I needed to move on with my life. And that's what I did. He was well aware of my, intent to move a long time ago. There's nothing new, no new news to him. But sure, he felt more comfortable if I was there. And he did have friends that visited him. He did. A lot of the same people we both knew. And he had his dog. He was happy with that. Of course, at this time in his life, he's been completely off drugs except for smoking a doobie or something, but, a bit too late type situation. Good morning, guys. A bit too late type thing. My life had to move on. Now, as I said, I was inspired to do this story, but only factual information that does have nothing to do with what the version of trolled stories about my life. It wasn't more complicated than that. It is what it was. It is what it is what it was. So this is a part 2. As I said, my phone got kind of fucked up while I was recording. I don't know what happened, really. The battery of my remote went or something, but it's on now, hopefully. Fortress of Love. So, to make things even clearer, no, there was no hate from my brother, and he didn't hate me. And as far as, might as well throw her in on, put more flies in the ointment. As far as my sister's concerned, it was basically her husband. Her husband didn't get along with the family. As for rent, her husband didn't get along with the family, period. So there's always some friction. So her husband always had something to say about something. And he was really the thorn in her foot, which made it really hard to communicate with her. I did through the years communicate with her. If he wasn't around, we were able to talk. If he was around, he'd tell her to hang up or whatever. That's the way it was. As Blazy Boy says, it is what it is. And it was what it was. This is brand new. Well, it's not real new. Pension houses. Never seen the inside. I guess they're small studio units. Seen the whole building process. Anyway, you got to make decisions in your life sometimes that are not always favorable with somebody else. But alas, it is your decisions that you have to make, not anybody else's. I was untethered, I was not tethered to anybody to make these decisions. And when I finally moved to the Philippines, a lot of planning. And it's not as easy as most people think when they want to make a move from one country to another. It is not that easy. There's so many things. You got to figure what you're going to do with your belongings. Sell some stuff, give some stuff away, give it to your nearest relative, which at the time would be my brother. He had a small place, so not much you could take. But when I make up my mind about something, I do it. And I did. Sometimes you got to make your own decisions, not based on what somebody else thinks, but what you actually need. And whether or not you need a change in your life. Only you know that. Nobody can tell you different. Nobody. Anyway, if anything, it's been a nice walk anyway. Get some steps in this morning. And share with my audience the truth and nothing but the truth. You could spin it any way you want, but it doesn't mean all the bullshit being talked about out there in YouTube land is the truth. But most people know that. And they know because people like to pull each other's chains in order to get content. That's nothing new. A sleepy day on the island, sleepy morning. Oh, playing some good music. They got a taste in music though out here though. That's one thing I like. They're really into, well, certainly a lot of the 80s music. And they really love music out here. I like to pass on the karaoke shit, although I give in every now and then. But anyway, to bring the story up to date, been a YouTuber on here for millions of years. And we're back on the road. Now, again, this is paved. The whole road is not paved because, as I said, an ex-mayor owned all this that you can see, all this. So to give his properties some value, well, it was kind of a business decision. And whether he paid for this out of his pocket, I don't know. I don't know. I can say different, but I can't prove it. He had this paved. Wouldn't that have been marvelous if he did the whole road? I personally have talked to the planning commission and all that. And they say, oh yeah, we have so much allocated. We're going to at least bring some sand over and do a couple of things. Oh, they sure did. They brought cement over and they cemented all this. All this. Not to my house and beyond. Cemented all of this. Nice, huh? That's all his property here too. Everything you're looking at. That's abandoned, probably from the storm. They just didn't want to fix the roof and everything else. Everything else kind of... Why don't we take a walk and take a look at this? Think any harm in doing that? See the inside of the structure. Kind of make an evaluation. Was it by storm or what was it? Everything, as you can see, is cement. It's how they build things out here. Yeah, roof totally caved in. You see the rotting of the beams on there. Yeah, that's easy. Oh, it smells like a piss haven for cats. Spray haven, you know. Anyway, I think pretty much that's what happened with that. There's a lot of houses around here that are exactly like that from the storms of the past. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to see where I want to go. On a side road, maybe walk up the side road. Yeah, I would just go back down this way. All right, so decisions have to be made in your life, and it's up to you to make those decisions. If it bothers somebody or they don't find it to their advantage in one way or the other, I never abandoned anybody. There's never an abandonment, whether it's my daughter or my brother. I've never abandoned anybody. I was there for my daughter all the time. All she had to do was call me. And even though I didn't agree with a lot of things that she talked about and how she was handling it, I was there. Look, no cane. No cane. And that's where it abruptly ends, right here. So continuing on, henceforth, well, I've been in the Philippines for nearly 9 years. Had a YouTube show on here, probably longer than that. Good morning. Oh, I'm not sociable, and nobody's sociable with me. Another misnomer. Oh, the shade feels good. Oh, yes, it does. You could put out anything you want about somebody, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But, you know, welcome to the club of social media. And the rest, well, basically, spent a lot of time on YouTube. Enjoyed doing countless uploads and live streams. And getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, actually. Even despite the trolls, which tried to take control of my life, which they did not achieve. I kept on keeping on, Didn't let that stop me. Here I am today. Let's do this again. Any cane? I don't see a cane. I don't see a cane. It's fun and games. Sometimes it gets, gets pushed too far and you have to do something about it, which I did to bring up the date. Somebody got way out of line. It's not that others don't, but, I can't bring to court the whole YouTube channel, quite frankly. Pick and choose your enemies. Hey, girl. Okay, sweetheart. Oh, let's see your flowers here. Ooh, hibiscus, yes. Oh, yeah, get some water. I didn't walk a long stretch of the beach or nothing. Went down to one area, did some video here, and came back, but it's still a good walk. Oh, where? Well, it's gonna have to be warm water. I don't like warm water unless I'm eating meat or something. Then that's a different story. Well, I got some tea that's been overwaiting for me. I suppose I could drink the tea, put the fan on here. All right, here we go. So, no matter what you hear on YouTube, just take it with a grain of salt. And for those newbies here that have been hearing all these horrible stories, let me take this mic. I don't need it at this time, so let me remove this. Okay. But the true colors of people come out sooner or later, and we have seen it. Even with Jay, you can see how volatile Jay can be when he wants to, especially when he's drinking. But drinking, that's the other thing. It's something I don't partake in. I never will. But drinking can change your whole disposition. So am I living a bad life? No, I'm not actually. Is it full of adventure? Nah, it's not. It's realistic. And I did a show on that. What is it really like? What is it really, really like as a retired person to live in the Philippines? Well, I'm telling you what it's like. It's not, what you see on a lot of people's shows that's choreographed for the benefit of the viewers. Now, there are drawbacks where I live, of course, and I've discussed that. I got a generator that needs a little work. Somewhere along the line, we heard that there's going to be a very long blackout for the day. I don't know when that is or when it's scheduled, but we couldn't get the guy who normally comes over to troubleshoot this. That could be a problem, especially if you're talking from morning till evening. That could be a problem here. True riders never quit. I like that one. That's my girlfriend's son put that on, who drives this. 2 of them do now. True rider never quit. I really don't know what the hell that means, but okay. I suppose we can incorporate that statement into life itself, that you never quit when you find a direction or you have a meaning or something to accomplish. Yeah, that would make some sense on that if you want to interpret this as such. Anyway, still in the Philippines, wasting a lot of my oxygen talking about certain individuals on here and providing needed entertainment for the masses. The masses that claim that they got this wonderful life and they got money and they're doing this and they're doing that, when the fact is, if they're listening to me, they're not doing anything because, truthfully, I don't do a hell of a lot. Local things, yeah, but I don't always put it on camera. I'm not going to do every dinner we go out, every lunch we go out, and every time we walk on the beach or whatever, go to the nature park. There's some things that will involve family that you keep to yourself and not have to include all the time. So yes, you probably gave up a lot, or maybe you didn't give up anything at all when you decided to move to a place called the Philippines. A lot of planning had to go into that. A hell of a lot of planning. It was not an easy thing to do for anyone. You had to think about this and think about that. Whose feelings are you going to hurt? Sometimes you have to move on with your life despite what somebody else thinks. Sometimes, they got their life together. They got children now. They got a husband, whatever, your daughter, in my particular case, and sometimes you have to do what you have to do for your own life. You're getting older. You want to go on with your life. You've had lots of female experiences in your life, enough to last you a lifetime. So, being single would not be a bad option if that ever happened, being single. But that didn't work out that way, and I'm very happily in a relationship. No matter what anybody thinks. That my woman doesn't love me, she don't want to kiss me, or whatever. By nature, Filipinos they do not publicly display their sentiments. Now, what goes on in the house, outside of public eye, or whatever, that's a whole different story. It's one of those situations. We're not going to make out on camera just to show people, oh, we're happy, or we have a good relationship. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of options out there. And I've had a lot of options out here, and I don't have to be with the woman I'm with now, and neither does she. As I said, she has her own money, and she doesn't need me here if there was no love. So let me put a little soil on those stories. I'm here because I want to be, and she's there because she wants to be. End of story. And you can pull my chain to the audience as much as you want, but you're not going to change my situation. Now, unfortunately, somebody kind of entered our life that I think tried to do a lot of damage on me. And that's where you also have to make decisions. Very important decisions. Should you leave it alone? Or has it gotten that fucked up that you just can't sit back and let certain things happen? That's what happened in my case with an individual out there who's already incarcerated 21 months of his life for one thing and now faces a trial of 5 charges against him for something else, which could indeed give him imprisonment in a very hot, sweaty, dangerous environment where he'd have to share the cell with 40 other people. Well, as I like to use the expression, nobody put a gun to his head to make him do what he did. He doesn't see that there's any damage from this. He doesn't see how words can get you into a jail or prison situation, but that would be wasting my breath to have to rehash that and why he's so wrong about this. When you're above the law, you're above the law. If that's the kind of character you are, and you're that cocky, and you're that uneducated, maybe 3rd grade level, you can't communicate with somebody like that. There's no such thing as reasoning with somebody, because it can't happen. You might as well talk to a wall. You'll get better results of talking to a wall. Or perhaps your dog. They at least have the ability of understanding compared to like a 3-year-old child. But in his situation, it's not such. He's emotionally void. There's nobody home. And it's really hard to deal with somebody like that. So you have a choice to make. Should I let this go on? Him constantly defaming you and perhaps your partner and family and so forth, and making death threats on top of that? You got to come to a point and make a decision that, no, I'm either going to just ignore this or I'm going to take action. So that's exactly what I did. And it's going pretty well so far. And I think it's going to go its course. I believe so. With all the time that's passed and everything done, knowing the whole circumstance and the evidence and everything else. And believe me, they don't just take any evidence. Jesus Christ. And we had to find just the right tapes. Had to be on camera. They didn't want to take anything else, but they will consider taking audio clips with a motion, if you file a motion to do so during testimony. The judge has to approve that motion. That's exactly what we're going to do. And just one video is all we need, which will not put him in a great position as far as when a judge finally makes his decision. But it's like, oh well. I didn't force you to say those things every single show, as I told you before. People say, oh, what about the things you said on YouTube? Well, the very same people that are pointing that finger at me, they've talked about my death. They've also called me that famous name. They've downed me, my life, my girlfriend. They're in no better position. They're in no better position to be dictating and say, you've done wrong on YouTube. Well, everybody has a moment where you get aggravated and you don't think before you say something. And I've had a few moments of that. But you know what? The difference between me is that I very genuinely in the past apologized to an open audience on there saying, sorry if I said something that really angered you or bothered you. Okay, it was done out of not thinking. It was done out of an angry moment. I had the balls and I had the ability to recognize a wrong. But not everybody can do that. I was able to do that. Now, there's nothing wrong with my life out here. And as far as me not having friends, that's not the truth. Because I befriended people that were basically, and probably 75% or more, from my girlfriend's friends. Yes, we have attended events and parties and anniversaries and you name it. I don't stay very long because, as I said, once the karaoke's on, after a while, I'm kind of out of there. But I do attend, and these people have been over our house, and I know everybody by name, and I know their characters, and they know me, they know what I'm all about. That's all that matters. No, I don't just bother with my neighbor next door. I'm actually a very social person. But I'm one of these people that's very impatient. If I'm at an event, it's like, okay, had enough. I showed my face, socialize while I'm there, say goodbye to them, find a reason to leave. And that's what I do, and quite honestly, that's what I do. I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I handle it, quite scholarly. And all's good. No, I have lots of friends out here. Because I'm not hanging around with them, going fishing or doing something like that, doesn't mean I don't have friends out here. I'm perfectly happy and comfortable with my situation. And no, I'm not in the house 24/7 because I could not do that. I could not humanly do that. That's just not me. I'm kind of fidgety. And I can't even watch a movie without getting up 6 times at least during that movie. Not to take a piss, but just to get off the chair and get my blood circulating, which you should do anyway. Henceforth, to walk this morning and walk and talk to the beach this morning, as I did. I'm still going to hit the treadmill after I cool off, because that wasn't enough steps. But what I do at home, not everybody sees. And that's purposeful. I will only show you and talk about what I want my viewers to see, and that's it. No more than that. Anyway, that's the story. And as far as straightening out another story, I did not abandon my brother at all. I talked to him every 3 days like clockwork. My brother knew people that would stop by. He had everything he needed medically. He was ambulatory. He was not dying in a bed. There was nothing like that. Was he lonely a lot? Yes. Because, and it really had nothing to do with me moving out. You'd have to understand, when you live in a semi-rural area in Hawaii, on a big island, it's not like you have friends coming over all the time. They have lives too. Whether they're involved in drugs, or they got family, or whatever. Or they're thieves, whatever. A lot of them out there, all of the above. They were better off not being in my brother's life, but he did socialize. He totally understand why I needed to move. He told me in his own words, he goes, you got to go on with your life. He says, I understand. And he said it to me. He understood why I had to do that. He knew that my life wasn't going anywhere out there. It really wasn't. You can only do so much gardening and stuff, but sometimes you need different pastures, not necessarily greener pastures, but I spent time visiting the Philippines, and of course I met somebody, and that was the catalyst of me moving out here to the Philippines. That's the end of the story. Other than saying, where I'm at today is I'm at a point where I think I've kind of run out. Oh, let's talk about age too. I want to get everything in here. Because I'm 70 years old doesn't mean I'm going to die today or tomorrow. Okay, I think some of the good habits I have, and I always emphasize, not the bad, although if I can get rid of that, I probably live even longer. But don't expect me to croak anytime soon. As I said, longevity does run in my family, certainly my father's side. Now consider this. My brother died at 72. Because yeah, it's almost a year now. Holy shit. Almost 73, I think it was. And he did drugs the best part of his life since 14. Drank. Smoked. But then he quit many, many years before he died. Many, many years. He had a mini stroke once. I was there for him. We were in the car. Took him right to the hospital. What timing. Brother was always there for brother. That's a fact. I treated my brother with the best respect I could give him. There were times I needed my space because he was just too volatile and negative at times. And of course, if you caught my first video, part 1, he had some frontal lobe problems, and I never really put 2 and 2 together on that till years later. It wasn't just a revelation, it was something I suspected. And that had to do with his behavior, how negative he was, and how verbal he could be, and so forth and so on. You'd have to live with the guy to understand what I'm talking about. Was he a good person? Yes, he was a good person. He was actually a very kind person. And people did like him. And he never bothered anybody, really. Not really. Bothered me a lot, but and I had to live next door to him, understand that. It was not easy. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. It was not easy. There were times I just had to close the curtains and lock the door and get my isolation in and go online or watch TV or prepare my meals, whatever I was going to do. Of course, I had my own vehicle and I could take off anytime I want. I've even given him vehicles. So to dispel the myth, the theories that I was not kind to my brother and I left him hanging, that is so far from the truth that it becomes humor when I listen to this. Here's the deal on YouTube. It's storytelling time. And I would listen to Jay's show, and Brevis was on there, and Jerry was on there. These are all 3 creeps. The 3 creepateers. All of them have a checkered past, every single one of them. And for them to be in a position to make up stories that never existed and turn things around, I didn't even recognize who the hell they were talking about. But if you've been on YouTube long enough and you heard this time and time again, they like to take stories and turn it into something false or use an incredible amount of hyperbole to put out a story that makes somebody look bad. If I was that kind of person that they describe me as being, I'd have to go into the Guinness Book of World Records. I would have to. Or a made-for-TV movie or something. Outlandish nonsense, made up, just to pull somebody's chain. But each and every one of these people, I would venture to say, they would not go in front of your face, it don't matter how old you are, they would not go in front of your face and tell you the same stuff they did when they're behind a protective environment of their phone. That's about the story. That's it.